Okay, let's go to one of our favorite guests here, who is the center of some very troubling news, Ezra Levant, Canadian journalist at rebelnews.com. That is rebelnews.com. Ezra, welcome to the program. Ezra, take some time and educate our audience on what you went through this last weekend and what is going on in the unfree country of Canada.
Thanks, Charlie. Great to be back on the show. And consider Canada a warning to Americans. If you don't hold tight to your constitutional freedoms, especially your First Amendment, you will go down the path like Canada and the United Kingdom. So consider us a warning from your near future. I live in a fairly Jewish neighborhood in North Toronto, and I saw online that some pro-Hamas extremists came right into this residential neighborhood. Like, there's no political targets here. There's no embassy or anything. They just came to an area with apartment buildings where Jews live. And they recreated the final moments of Yahya Sinwar. That's the now deceased leader of the Hamas terrorist group. So they set up this whole ornate display. It was really gross, and I thought, wow, that's crazy. It would be like someone setting up a Hitler display or, frankly, burning the KKK burning a cross outside a black church. So I went down there because I'm a journalist. I run Rebel News. And I went in pretty low key. I just wanted to take a photograph of this insane sort of display. And the police came up to me and said, "You're not allowed to do that." I said, well, I live here. I'm a citizen. I'm a neighbor. I'm on the public sidewalk. I'm not even talking to these Hamas folks. I'm just taking a photo. And the police sort of strong-armed me away. Now, that bothered me, but I wasn't going to do anything about it. But another cop came up and said, "Your mere presence here, just by being here, is illegal because it's, quote, causing a disturbance and inciting the crowd." And you can see there's some activists behind the cops there waving Palestinian flags. They weren't criticizing me as a journalist. They were criticizing me as a Jew. They were talking about the Intifada, and they were talking about genocide and stuff. And I'm a free speech absolutist, by the way. I mean, I find that sort of gross. But the cops were basically saying, you cannot stand on the street because these Jew haters will be triggered. And I said, well, I'm sorry, they don't have a veto over my civil rights. Well, these cops took the path of least resistance. They knew it was easier to arrest me because I wouldn't riot. So they arrested me, handcuffed me, took me to jail. And they were acting as the concierge for these pro-Hamas extremists right in the middle of a Jewish neighborhood. And what gets me is, since when do they run errands for the terrorists? If they're law enforcement officers, enforce the law. Let me stand on a sidewalk. And if these thugs really are going to hurt me, don't arrest me. Protect me or arrest them. And by the way, a lot of them are foreign nationals who have no legal right to even be in Canada. So that's what happened to me yesterday. I finally did get out of jail. And by the way, the police at the jail were quite nice to me. I think they realized this was BS. But this has happened 5 times in 2024 to one of our other journalists. So this is now a half a dozen times journalists have been arrested simply for doing journalism in Canada. Beware, Americans. We are a warning about your future.
So Ezra, just re-educate the audience. I guess you don't have a First Amendment at all, nor did you. You had your charter, a Declaration of Rights, but it means absolutely nothing. And just so we are clear, you are doing an act of journalism. Yes, correct? This was an act of journalism?
Yeah,
pure and
that's
simple?
right. That's what I do full time. It happened to be in my neighborhood, so it was very quick for me to go over there. The police know us because we have, interacted with many of them before. There was this one moment where I said to one of the senior cops, I said, "You're not the law." He said, "Yes, I am the law." I said, "No, you're a servant of the law." Charlie, we do have a watered down version of your First Amendment. It's Section 2B of our charter, and it specifically protects the free press. And it looks good on paper, but it has never been interpreted as boldly as the American First Amendment. But still, in Canada, what this cop did to me was illegal. It violated my rights. Trouble is, I've got to now go to court, sue the police, and maybe in 2 years' time, I'll have my hearing. In the meantime, like I say, this is the 6th time they've simply snatched our reporters off the street. In this case, it was me. And they interfere with us because by the time justice catches up to them, Charlie, it's 1, 2, 3 years into the future. Believe it or not, one of our reporters was actually shot by a Mountie during the trucker convoy, not with a bullet, but with a riot gun. And she was injured, and the police absolutely targeted her. That was the only shooting in the entire, that was the only act of violence in the entire trucker convoy, was a cop shooting a Rebel News reporter, which is astonishing. So we're still in court over that. Justice up here is very slow. And in the meantime, the cops do what they want. And unfortunately, they become woke, especially the Mounties and the Toronto Police Service. They're run. I think a lot of the beat cops are pretty good people, and they don't understand this new two-tier policing. They don't understand why they have to be concierges for these pro-Hamas folks. There was actually another pro-Hamas protest in Toronto that they blocked off a road into a residential neighborhood. They blocked it. They stopped Jews from coming and going to their homes. And what did the police do? You're going to find this astonishing, Charlie. They brought coffee and donuts to the Hamas blockade to keep them warm because it was chilly out. The police literally brought coffee and donuts to these pro-Hamas thugs. And I say pro-Hamas because they are. They're reenacting these terrorist moments. They're shouting for death to the Jews. And what gets me is the cops said, because you're upsetting them, your presence here is illegal. I don't live in Gaza. I live in Canada. And unfortunately, the cops are acting like Sharia police instead of Canadian police, Charlie.
So I just want to reiterate this. If a reporter is arrested in Russia, it makes international news because Russia is super unfree and we're supposed to hate Russia. I don't like Russia. However, you get arrested in Canada, and it's just kind of an eye roll. I mean, this is getting worse. It's not getting better. So President Trump is sworn in on January the 20th. If this continues, President Trump should just tell Canada, I'm doing a 10% tariff on all lumber coming into America. I mean, at some point, we need to use the muscle of the United States of America, or else Canada will become East Germany. Is that an exaggeration, Ezra?
Well, look at the United Kingdom, because they're further down the path than we are. They are jailing dozens of people for Twitter comments. I was released within a couple hours, Charlie, and they declined to press charges. I think they just wanted to humiliate me and handcuff me in public and get me out of there. So the UK is far worse. Now, I'm pleased to say, perhaps not Donald Trump himself, but Elon Musk certainly, who is in a way a proxy for Trump, has just been smashing their censorship. And I think it's got their attention. I would love it if people around the world said, I mean, obviously I support Canadian jobs and it would hurt Canada if there were tariffs, but I think just speaking clearly and about the moral importance of freedom and say, look, Canada and America are friends, but we are disappointed and concerned to see Canada deleting its historic free. I mean, we used to be just as free as you. 200 years ago, we were actually, I mean, we're close cousins. There's no two countries that are closer than Canada and America. And yes, we don't support freedom as strongly as you, and it's a shame. But I think if just the moral authority of the president or an ambassador or a secretary of state, and I don't know if there even has to be a threat there. I think just if Canadians heard from an outside force saying, guys, we're starting to really worry about you. Normally we put Canada in the safe and freeze. Like this is Turkey, this is Iran, this is China, this is North Korea. Like you say, it's Russia. But Canada? And I think simply an American friend sort of shaking us and say, what are you doing? Wake up.